All right, you freedom loving boys and girls, as I'm getting eaten by a mosquito. We're welcome to our Fork in the Road series where I'm doing a couple videos highlighting some products. We're doing the Fork in the Road sale right now that'll run until the Monday after Independence Day. And by the way, next Monday, what the heck is that? Today's the 27th. Yeah, the 30th, Monday the 30th for our millstone. If you want to hear what my fork in the road theory and what it's based on, I'll be talking about it on Millstone Monday, which is normally the first Monday of the month, but we're going to do it on the last Monday because it's Independence Day and then Independence Day weekend. So anyway, that's a little bit of housekeeping, but that's not really what I meant to talk about. So one of the products that we make, one of our flagship products, a product I'm incredibly proud of. There's some history behind it. I'm going to share that with you. Is the Mother Canteen Carrier. Often duplicated, but it ain't the same thing. There's one guy who bought one from me, then went over to China and even posted pictures, of the audacity. Went over to China, reverse engineer it. Now he's selling cheap Chinese ripoffs, but, F that guy. But anyway, the one and the only, imitation is not flattery, in my opinion, but the Mother Canteen Carrier. And it's, again, we're already doing the Fork in the Road sale. And like I said, and go see the original video talking about that and my logic behind it. I'll explain it more on Monday the 30th in our Millstone Monday. But this really is, I think, a kick-ass product, and I'm not joking. We're giving this away right now. I'm giving this away as cheap as I possibly can because I'd like to see people have it because, even if we take the fork in the road that goes in the positive direction, I still think there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting. And this is something that you can use in all kinds of circumstances, whether it's soccer mom in it, going to the ball game, taking a hike, gathering berries, hunting, camping, zombie apocalypse, all of the above. And so I'm just going to kind of go over it a little bit really quickly. And then I'm going to tell you the genesis about it. And I'm going to show you one other thing. So, you got a main front pocket, two big side pockets, and then you got these Amali attachment. And you can see I've got a Chemlite, dummy cord into one, and then I got a ferrule rod. I've seen a lot of people, even do things with these type of knives and have that in those locations, a Mora type of knife. So, you can attach whatever you want to the side. Again, a big main pocket with a bikini strap. The original design was, to keep it nice and tight, the canteen in here, so you don't get a lot of, see, I don't know if you can even hear that. But, with my background, noise and light discipline is a big deal, but you can still drink out of it on the go if you wanted to. And you can get a lot of gear in these pockets. Go see some of the previous videos. I'm not going to do a whole loadout video on it, but tons of gear in the front, tons of gear in the side, bikini strap. The shoulder strap, I'm just going to take off real quickly. We've got 3 different size shoulder straps. Now, this one has the shotgun shell loops on it, and then the normal version, and of course I didn't bring another shoulder strap, but the normal version is just the 1-inch webbing and larger flat loops. So that's the difference there. It normally comes with the flat loops, but the shotgun shells, that's the add-on. And if you've ordered recently, or if you've ever ordered from me, I call everybody and review the order before we start cutting the material. And because I get a lot of people who order both the loops and the shotgun shells, you can't have both, right? You can only have one or the other. So 3 different size shoulder straps, and then 2 different options on the shoulder strap. Here, this is called a chasm buckle. This is our normal configuration. But if you see that G hook on the website, lots of times people will want a G hook here, and then we've got to replace the male buckles here. So there's a different way. The vast majority of it is they replace the female buckle on the pocket flap, and then this just comes up to the G hook, and this is a loop, and then the G hook holds it flat. So that's kind of where the G hooks go, are on these flaps, and it's just a really thin piece of metal that looks like a G, right? And then you can run the G or the tooth through the loop and then pull it tight, and that's what holds it in place. One thing I do really want to point out that is really good news, and I don't have mine with me because Blake from Fog Firearms, he has my Purcell trench, my solo grill, because months back, it looked and it appeared that Purcell trench was out of business or shutting down. So, and I tried reaching out to them to see if they had inventory, to buy it. And then if they didn't, I was going to like say, hey man, I'd like to duplicate your product and start making it myself. So we were going to start looking at doing it. But I've just heard from somebody, actually, I think I've heard from 2 people in the last 2 months that Purcell Trench is back up. They may have been bought out by somebody, but those Solo, if it's the same name, that Purcell Trench Solo grate, that fits into the rear slip pocket really nicely, and that's a huge product. I really like it. I will have to start doing some things and linking things, and I'll have to go and check that out. But there's a rear slip pocket here, and that's where that attaches, or it fits in there. Like right now, I just got in the rear slip pocket, I just got my canteen cup lid. You can put small stoves back there. I've got my small stove up front, and I got a tarp. But these type of folding small stoves, that can also fit in that rear area if you were interested. We got the Smoking Rabbit patch up there. Got to give, Mark a little shout out, Smoking Rabbit. Purcell Trench, I'm glad to see that you guys are back doing things, well, or whoever took care of it. On the back side, you got molly, so you can molly it to other items if you want, and you've seen me do it in tons of different videos, or just reconfigure the molly and then make it into a belt channel if you want to run it on your waistline. And then there's attachment points on the bottom for attaching, whether it's the G3 or a jacket or a tarp. All right, here's a quick little story about this, and I've done this a bunch of times, but here's how this kind of came about. So we had just started Centerline Systems. I was making belts initially for the training side, right? Because I was doing a lot of handgun training. And so we started making belts because there just weren't good belts out there. And then I'm big into bow hunting, made the first gear roll because I almost lost the knife. And then one day, Jason from Lester River and George from Puco Cutlery were talking to me, and they're like, you really need to make a canteen pouch. And so I just sat down, and on a napkin, I just drew this out on a napkin because this is what I always wanted when I was in the military. And so my very first duty station, we used to use a lot of strobe lights. I was 101st. It still says airborne, but it's really an air assault unit. So the strobe light is a very important thing for a helicopter, operations and stuff. So, I can't remember if it was my squad leader or team leader, but they're like, hey, take your strobe light pouch, go off base, and, to this place, and they'll sew it right here. And if you remember, the military canteens carriers, you had this really tiny pocket down here you could really put a water purification bottle in there, the small little water pure tab bottles, or your triple flange earplugs, if you remember those things that, probably gave all this tinnitus. But that's all it was, is a really small pocket. And there was nothing up here, but, you get into those type of units, and hell, I bet that went all the way back to like Vietnam or Korea. Some soldier, some infantryman at some point in time said, I don't want to have another pouch on me, and they figured out how to sew it or attach it to that open space on the military canteen carrier. So we would just take that, and you have to buy it, so when you cleared division, you go to CIF and they'll charge you for it because you cut it up. But that's what it was. It was a small pocket up here and 2 super small pockets back there. And so when those guys were talking to me, I'm like, well, you know what, man? It's got to have an interior rear slip pocket. It's got to have a good shoulder strap system. It's got to have a big enough pocket, for, I think that's a 5x7 tarp I've got in there, a sil nylon, attachment points, all over the place, adjustable bikini strap so you can drink it on the go, and a rear slip pocket, a good heavy duty industrial interior, so all of those items in there aren't destroying the outside, the cadre, it's to give it longevity to the product, right? And then, big side pockets, because again, why waste all this real estate? So that's how that all came about. So God bless the military, I guess, right? I learned a lot of stuff in my experience in the military, the agency, or just up here in northern Minnesota where I grew up. I was one of those lucky, stupid kids who was out hunting at like 10 years old. And I think I was like 12, and it was like 2 miles through the woods to my grandma's house. And I didn't go anywhere without a 22 or a 410. I mean, so you always had this kind of stuff. So a lot of thought and a lot of experience goes into it. You know, like, look, there's a bunch of knockoffs. You do you. I mean, you know, like if you want to go support, you know, some guy who buys your gear and then goes have the Chinese make it, whatever, man, you do you. But I definitely think you need to have a good canteen carrier system. And if you think this is just a canteen carrier, like cousin husband was just saying, you know, because my thing is like, well, just throw your canteen in a sock. If you just think it's a carrier, well, then just throw it in a sock and, you know, tie it around your belt or something like that. And then he was like, well, maybe you should start making socks. But no, but seriously, you need a good canteen carrier because, you know, and if it's got, you know, the capabilities like, you know, like ours does, that's a lot of gear in a minimalist platform over the shoulder. And, you know, even with this right here, I mean, I could probably survive an easy 3 days. Now, by easy, I don't mean it's going to be, you know, pain-free and it's going to be like staying at the Hilton. But I've got a tarp, I've got food, fire, water, shelter, shoot, move, communicate, medicate, all in here. I don't have the shoot part, but that would be on my person. But you get what I'm saying. So there's a lot you can do with just a small platform like this. So get out there, get some gear, train with it, get proficient with it, because, you know, no matter which direction we go, it's still going to be some heavy lifting and some hard times. Oh, and then one last thing before we wrap up this one. This video is going a little bit long, but now this is another Mother, and I hope this shows up. And I've got the mud flap on it. So we were making the mud flap. You know, I was having people who were like, hey, but I want a cover for this. So we designed the mud flap. So, you know, I'm thinking maybe you already had the Mother. So we wanted a product that could work with everybody who had previously purchased it. And then so ever since we made them, you know, they just didn't sell very well. And I'm like, you know, and we're not selling them for what we should be selling them for, because like there just wasn't any margin in it. No one's going to pay 60, 70 bucks for, you know, a little cover like this. So we just stopped doing it. And of course, the moment we did it, then people started asking out. So if that's you, if you see this video and you do like the concept of a mud flap, we can still make them. I'm just not going to put them back up on the website. And then, you know, you can see, so your shoulder straps still work. And then there's a G hook right there. Oh, see, that worked out. I just have this set up just to show what a G hook is, right? So this buckle and stuff wouldn't normally be here, but, you know, but I'm just showing another way you can set it up. So I did it with a G hook and the plastics, and then your shoulder strap plugs into the mud flap itself, and then that's how the whole damn thing works. So if you still want one, we can still make it. So just reach out and ask, and we'll work it out after that. But what am I forgetting on the awesome Mother Canteen Carrier there, cousin husband?
You're good.
Oh, he thinks I'm good. So then that's good, because we've got one more video to shoot, starting to drizzle a little bit. And my final outro comment is, it's only like 60 degrees here right now. It was 50 something earlier today, and it's probably like in the low 60s. And I'm too freaking warm in this hoodie. So I know people think, you know, oh, you northerners just talk crap. No, I'm too hot in this hoodie right now. It's 60 degrees. I'm wearing shorts. Cousin husband's wearing a t-shirt behind the camera. Like 60 degrees is warm, man. And this hoodie is a cold weather hoodie. We got to get this next video done, because I'm about to break out in sweat. So you know the deal. If you've got questions, comments, reach out anytime. Sale is running all the way until the Monday after Independence Day. Reach out. I'll do the best I can, even if it's about the mud flap or whatever the case is. So until then, as always, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. We'll see you next time. All right, everybody, be good. Woo!